So the funniest thing is I was gathering footage for this video trying to demonstrate that you have to leave the fuse in the box if you want to keep the gate open and cross to the other side. But as I was putting it out and taking it back in, I didn't mean to, slide underneath the gate in time while still retaining the fuse in my hand. And so this will probably get patched out later on because the sacrifice is supposed to be that you keep the fuse in the box and you can't carry it on with you to gain access to the other side. But you know, I'm just that fast. And you can do it with this gate as well. So these two kind of gates that have two fuse boxes on either side, for the time being, it looks like you can use a little exploit if you want. So red barrels, get to it. So the fuse objective, it's the first objective you encounter in the shopping mall trial. And I really like this as an objective because it's not just an objective. It's a core mechanic that's present throughout the trial. And you can choose optionally like how much you want to invest in seeking out more fuses, additional fuses that can help you out later on in the trial. So the way these work is that there's going to be stores throughout the trial because it's a mall, and some of these stores are going to have their lights on and they're going to have music playing. The majority of them will have their lights off. They'll all be boarded up and dark inside, but some of them you'll see this one. What did I say? Lights on, music on, and that means there will be a fuse inside the fuse box for this store. So for the little tutorial section, as you're just entering the mall, there will be one fuse on the left side and one fuse on the right side. So these two stores, you have to retrieve these two fuses and put them in the red fuse box. When the fuse box is red, that means that once you place a fuse in there, you can't retrieve the fuse. When the fuse box is black, that means you can put in a fuse and take out a fuse and put in a fuse as much as you please. Now when you take out a fuse, that makes the lights go off and the gate closes behind you. This gate, I guarantee you cannot get under in time. The gates that I could get under in time, those are an exception, and like I said, those will probably be patched out. When you take out this fuse, immediately the instant you take out the fuse, an enemy will spawn out of the nearby EIG. Every room that has a fuse in it has a corresponding EIG, and the enemy spawns even before the alarm starts playing. Like usually you'll hear the 3-tone blare from the alarm, and then the doors will slowly open and the enemy will walk slowly out. It's not the case here. The enemy spawns much faster. Some people thought it's a glitch with how fast the enemies spawn. I think it's intentional so that you can't just bypass them, and yet you can still bypass them pretty easily. It's darkness, so you can kind of stealth around, or you can just jump past them as I do here while you're undetected. I think it'd be cool if on higher difficulties they actually spawned a Night Hunter in, so it's not so easy to just bypass this enemy. But these enemies that spawn, they're permanent mainstays for the rest of the trial, and they'll just start wandering the mall for the rest of the trial. That shouldn't dissuade you from picking up any fuses. Just pick up the fuses, you will need them. So once you gather these two introductory fuses, which you cannot get back by the way, because you put them in the red fuse box, you can look up for the map, which will show you all the kind of stores that are present in the trial. Now, but there's an RNG element to it, right? Some of the stores will be active, some won't. Some will have fuses, some won't, and that's going to vary from playthrough to playthrough. Notable places are A, the big department store. That's going to be the next objective we need to get to, the one we need to access. And for this, we're going to need to place 3 fuses in a red fuse box on solo mode. In co-op, that will require 4 fuses. And so it's a red fuse box. We put them in, we can't get them back. So it's just going to eat up those 3 or 4 fuses. So we're going to wander the store. We're going to be looking for stores with their lights on, because that's when we're going to know we're going to have a fuse in them. They're always at the same kind of just beneath head level within the store on one of the inside walls. So you can just do a kind of horizontal scan with your eyes. Careful, because some of those fuse boxes will be tucked around corners in hard to see places. And I should note that this employees only sign that you see me keep pointing at, this employees only sign basically always points you to an objective, maybe not necessarily a fuse, but sometimes a valve, which is an objective I'll be talking about later on, a set of 3 valves. And this employees only sign always points to the back halls, which is how you're always going to exit the rooms that you get the fuses from. Of course, because the gate closes on you, you've got to go through the back way. For the other uses of fuses, I'll talk about those later on. I'm just going to skip ahead to, let's say we gather the fuses we need to put in the department store. Now, the department store objective is also very interesting. It's a completely new objective. This trial's just full of new objectives, and I like all of them. I totally expect MK challenges to be built around these individual objectives, and I think I'd like that a lot. So in the department store, on solo play, you're going to need to collect $40 worth of shopping items, or these big boxes. On co-op play, at least with 4 players, you need to collect $60 worth of boxes. How do you know how much each box is worth? There's going to be these scanners all around the department store, and you can walk up to them while carrying your box, and it'll tell you how much it's worth. Now this scanner, it does make a noise to me, like you can hear the noise it makes, but when I turn on my audio detector to see if I'm personally making noise within the trial that enemies can hear, it doesn't seem like the scanner will detect enemies. I mean, there's debate about these sorts of things. You know when you carry like child mannequins and they start like whining in your ear? Mommy, the bad man dropped me, or whatever. Some people say that makes noise to enemies and some people don't, and some people say it flickers the like noise crosshair, the little brackets on the side, and it doesn't happen for me, so I don't really know. Some people insist it happens. Maybe it happens for the scanner too, I'm not sure. These small boxes that you're carrying, relatively small, you'll see that some of them are worth 99 cents, some are worth $1.99. These are really piddly and pathetic, and it's going to take a lot of boxes to get all the way up to $40, right, or $60 on co-op. So what you want to do is you want to get the big bucks. You're going to go to the back of the store, and you'll see that there's this little sign that says no carrying heavy objects through this little doorway. Now, how are you going to get the heavy boxes out of this doorway? You'll see that there's this big kind of garage door over here that's activated by a fuse. You're going to need an extra fuse, one extra plus the 3 or 4 you already got for the department store, plus the 2 you already got to even enter the mall in the first place. So that's what I was talking about, the extra uses for the fuses. This additional fuse is extremely useful to get because some of these huge massive boxes, some are worth $4.99, some are worth $9.99, some are worth $14.99. So on solo play, you could really get 3 $14.99 boxes and you would just be instantly done the department store objective. The only downside is that these boxes are so comically massive, you can't see the ground you're walking on. You don't know if you're going to be walking on broken glass. You might walk onto a psychosis mine. Of course, you can use audio cues for that. And you can't jump with them, so there's no jumping over counters to avoid the glass or whatever. The department store itself is a very, very tight hallway labyrinth, I would almost say, except the walls aren't high, so that Otto and Aurora Crest can see you in the light areas, and it's really messed up. So once you do finish the department store quest, once you get all $40 or $60 worth of boxes, you'll grab a ticket to start the next objective. But before you do that, you really should go back and take out the fuse. You should take out the fuse that you placed to access the large boxes area in the back of the department store, because you can use that fuse later on, and I'm going to explain that right now. Throughout the mall, there's the storefronts, right? And they can open up the frontal gate if you put a fuse inside their box, and you can open up a new pathway that way. That is not so useful. What I like are these two kind of gates that I showed at the start of this video, that they only need one fuse to open. There's a fuse box on either side. If you fill up both with 2 fuses, it just does nothing. The gate doesn't stay extra open or anything. But these are really pathways of ultimate convenience. If the mall is split into 2 halves, basically these gates will connect both halves, and you can cross the upstairs freely or the downstairs maintenance hallway freely, depending on which one it is. And so when I was playing this solo run, I got the 3 fuses for the department store, and then I couldn't access them again. Then I got an extra fuse for the back of the department store to access the big boxes, and I got an extra fuse on top of that. So if I were to finish the department store quest and re-grab that fuse from the back room, I would have an extra 2 fuses to play with to open whatever gates I pleased, whatever fuses I wanted to keep on. So sorry for that long tangent about fuses. I think fuses are so cool and I want to see them get used more in MK challenges and whatnot. So after you're done the department store, you're going to win a ticket, and you're going to put that ticket in the central plaza. This is going to unlock a back kind of room which you pass through and reach these 3 valves. This is going to be a kind of tutorial valve objective, and it's a little bit of a math game. It is really grade school math. Don't be intimidated. You'll actually feel kind of embarrassed because your math skills will really be in question after this, but you can take a step back, take a deep breath, and really simplify this math for yourself. So you're going to see on one side of the little valve room, there will be an electronic screen reading a number. This is your current number. And then you're going to see a chalkboard on the other side, which says your target number. So you just have to do a little bit of subtraction or addition. So you're going to say, my current number is 51, the target number is 58. To get from 51 to 58, I need plus 7. You look at the numbers on the valves, there's not a 7 in there, is there? There's a 6, a 5, a 13, and it's plus or minus for each one of them. And I'll make things even easier. It seems very consistent that you only ever need to turn 2 valves to complete this objective in any case, no matter what the numbers are. So you're going to say, what 2 valves do I need to turn that will create a combined value of positive 7? In this case, it's going to be plus 13 minus 6, because 13 minus 6 is 7. It's positive 7. 51 plus 7 is 58. So don't just go turning valves haphazardly. Just take a step back, think hard about it, and think there's only 2 valves I need to turn, only 2 valves. And there's very few combinations you can actually work through that are plausible, so it is much simpler than it looks. Now there's a map here on the side that will show you where the valves are going to be. There's going to be any number on the 2nd floor, any number on the 1st floor. I neglected to mention that actually, by the way. There's only 2 floors in the whole mall. I mean, you'd figure that out for yourself. Now all these valves are going to be in the back rooms, the maintenance hallways. They will never be in the main aisles or anything. So like I was saying, those employees only signs on top of the doors, those will very likely or almost certainly lead you to valves in this trial. And yes, it does make noise when you turn them. So I think on solo and co-op both, you need to complete 3 sets of valves in addition to the tutorial one. And you can always come back to this map. It will always update the red shining lights to show the ones you've completed and haven't. Like if you've completed it, the red shining lights will go dull, and so you can always locate the uncompleted valves. Only this map though, only this map. There's that one upstairs that I showed earlier in this video. That map does not show where the valves will be. Anyway, once you're done the valves objective, you can go on to the final climactic objective. You can Krill the Paul Nutrition, and this is going to require another pump, kind of like the toy factory, but this one you don't need to turn a valve to start. I mean, I guess you did technically, but in the moment you don't need to turn a valve to start it. You just pump. You can spam left click, but you're kind of time gated. Like there's a rhythm to it based on the animation of you pushing it down, so you can like left click in rhythm, like duh, 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 or whatever. I'm not watching the footage. But like spamming it won't make it go any faster, and holding down your mouse will not work. Once you've got the dial up past the red point, your acid sprayers, there are 2 of them up front, which you can use to spray acid at the Paul Nutrition. They won't be flaccid anymore. You just need them not to be flaccid, so you can actually spray him with acid. And you can see, as I'm the primary pumper in this situation with my friends, you can see the pump going down as the acid gets used and as time goes on. So you do need to continuously pump, especially if Otto and Aurora are chasing you around and they're bothering you, and you have to come back and continue pumping. It's kind of a hellish objective on solo mode. That's why it's very nice on co-op. You can have 1 pumper and 2 acid sprayers, as is like natural, and then if you have a 4th person, they can distract Otto and Aurora. But Otto and Aurora will, of course, always naturally target the person who's on the objective. If someone's trying to distract them, they will just give up and start hitting the person on the objective. They're biased like that. If you're only 2 player, if you have a single acid spare, they're gonna have to go back and forth because the Paul Nutrition does swivel out of distance at the maximum end of his path, so the player is gonna have to follow him on either acid spare, but it's not too cumbersome. The aiming is a bit weird, like you'll grab it, have to wait for a bit of delay in the animation, and then start aiming it, holding left click to spray the acid. It doesn't seem to matter where you spray him, just spray him in the torso. It's like the easiest to aim at. And if you're wondering what he looks like at the end, it almost looks like his muscles atrophied. I think it's a bit badly modeled. I think the flesh was supposed to come off his bone, but it doesn't really look like that. It looks like he just lost a lot of muscle. I don't know. It's still very gruesome. I think this is a very creative design. We caught a glimpse of this in the trailers, and I thought he was just like, I thought we were spraying him in water. Like, is it a humiliation task? What is his final objective? But this is much more gruesome. Very good by Red Barrels. That's all I really had to say. I was trying to work on a script for this video to make the explanation as clean as possible, but then the script started getting super long because I started explaining very intricate details. So I decided, oh, whatever, I'm going to talk naturally as I'm rewatching my footage, which is what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to cut out all my stuttering and whatnot, and maybe it'll work out and I'll sound coherent in some sort of way. This is much easier for me. I hope it's a nice explanation for you. I hope you learned something new, even if you've already played the trial over and and feel like you've got all the objectives down. I hope you learned a new tip or trick, and maybe you can make use of that exploit that I showed you at the start if it's not patched already. Have a good one. I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say this. I'm just face checking, and I'm leaking. So I think it's no secret, because I've heard Bibzuda talk about stuff like this, but I'm part of the Murkoff whistleblower program. Thank you so much, Red Barrels. And that means I've been allowed to sit in with Red Barrels for presentations. They've showed me about the upcoming content, and I've got to talk to the developers personally. It was a huge privilege, and I was like shaking, and I was in awe, and I couldn't focus or speak because I've loved this game for almost like 10 years of my life, and to see the minds behind it was really cool. I actually had an opportunity to ask them maybe a few months ago during the Liquidate the Union, the Season 3 presentation, and I asked just out of curiosity, hey, I'm wondering, in Grind the Bad Apples when you're turning valves, why is it possible that you can hold left or like the A key on PC to go backwards and lose progress, because even the prompt will say it when you're turning the valve, will say hold A or D to turn the valve. So like you only ever go D, right, to turn the valve to full on Grind the Bad Apples and other valves like that. But if you turn in the A direction, you control yourself and your team and just lose progress and actually will go backwards if you've never tried or tested this. And the developer, one of the developers, I won't leak his name. I mean, I don't know if he wants me to talk about this. He told me, oh, it's because we fooled around with the idea that when you're doing the valve objective, you might have to go this direction, you might have to go that direction, and it's just like a kind of vestigial relic, I guess you'd call it. It's the appendix of the Outlast trials that this feature is still in, where you can go the wrong direction, because it did not used to be the wrong direction. And now, because of this new objective, it really isn't the wrong direction, because you can go plus or minus. You now can go either direction. So they have vamped up the valves objective, because I think they didn't stick with this in the original valves concept because they thought it was too complicated for people. But now that I suppose the game's been out for a couple of years, they feel that the player base should be comfortable enough with this objective that it's not too taxing on the brain to go a different direction. Like, we figured it all out. I mean, it might sound stupid. It might sound like they think we're stupid players, but players need a lot of guidance. I don't know if you know that. Video game players, like, if the objectives aren't super obvious on the first try, people are just gonna give up. Do you remember how I tried and failed to do the final objective and liquidate the Union? That was ugly. Like, I couldn't figure out how to throw stuff at the proper signs. That was really pathetic.